Okay, so we're about to dive into a story that's going to flip what you probably think you know about global trade. It's all happening in Bangladesh, but believe me, it's not about the industry you're expecting.
Go on, really think about it for a second. When someone says made in Bangladesh, what's the one thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's going to be a single word.
And look, you're not wrong. Of course, the garment industry is an absolute powerhouse, a massive, massive engine for the country's economy. But that's not the whole picture. Not anymore. There's another sector that's been quietly making some serious moves on the global stage.
Get a look at that number, over $1 billion. That, right there, is the value of Bangladesh's agricultural exports in the last fiscal year. That's not just a statistic, it's a signal of a huge shift, and it tells a whole new story about the country's economy. So how did this even happen? And what does it take to play in that league?
All right, so let's dig into the journey of these agro exports. Because as you're about to see, it's a story of some really impressive growth. But it's not some smooth, straight line up. It's actually been a bit of a roller coaster.
What's so fascinating here is just how much these numbers swing around. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in difference year to year. And that's because of things like weather, shipping costs, and all these compliance hurdles. But here's the key takeaway. That volatility isn't just a weakness. It's a huge opportunity. It means that the exporters who can really nail down the global standards, who build those reliable supply chains, they can charge a premium and build a stable business while everyone else is getting tossed around by these market shocks.
So, what exactly are we talking about here? What's actually in this billion-dollar basket of goods? Well, it's not just one or two things. It's a really diverse mix of products that are making their way to dinner tables all over the world.
It pretty much breaks down into four main streams. First, you've got your fresh stuff, vegetables, fruits. This is the category that demands incredible speed and what the industry calls cold chain management, which is just a fancy way of saying you have to keep it perfectly cold from the farm all the way to the supermarket shelf. Then you've got dry goods like spices, which are a lot easier to scale up. Of course, there's the classic export, tea. But this fourth category, this is where the really smart strategy is starting to play out.
And this chart right here tells the story perfectly. Processed foods, we're talking about items that have been cleaned, cooked, maybe packaged, they make up a full third of the total value. Now this is so important. It means Bangladesh is moving beyond just selling raw ingredients. It's starting to capture more of that final value by creating products that are ready for the consumer.
Okay, so we know what they're selling, but who's buying? Where is all this stuff actually going? Well, it turns out there are three really distinct customers that are driving all of this demand.
First, you have what's called the diaspora market. These are Bangladeshis living all over the world who are hungry for the authentic tastes of home. Second, you have the big leagues. We're talking mainstream supermarkets, restaurant chains. And third, you have industrial buyers. These are massive food companies that are buying these products as ingredients for their own stuff.
And this comparison really gets to the core of the strategy for any exporter. Think of it like two different paths. The diaspora market is your reliable home base. It's steady, it's driven by that sense of familiarity. But the mainstream path, well, that's where the big money is. It pays way better, but it is so much tougher to get into. They want audits, they want traceability for every single item, and your paperwork has to be absolutely perfect. It's a whole different ballgame.
And that level of professionalism brings us to what really separates the winners from the losers in this business. See, it's not enough to just grow a great product. You have to be able to prove it's great, and then you have to get it to your buyer halfway across the world in perfect condition.
I absolutely love this quote because it just nails the reality of modern global trade. A cheap price might get you in the door, it might start a conversation, but it's the verifiable proof of safety, of quality, that's what actually gets you the contract. Your buyer is managing their own risk, and they need to know you're a safe bet.
The best way to think about compliance is like a passport for your product. Seriously, without it, you are not getting past the border. End of story. It's non-negotiable. This means having all the right safety systems in place, testing for residues, and making sure your labels are perfect. A single typo on a label can get your entire shipping container rejected at the port.
And once your product has its passport, you have to make sure it actually survives the trip. This is where logistics comes in. It starts the second that product is picked, with smart handling to avoid waste. It means choosing the right way to ship it. Air freight for speed, sea freight for cost. And maybe most important of all, it requires flawless paperwork. You know, most shipping delays aren't because of a slow boat. No, it's because someone messed up the documentation.
Okay, so after hearing about all those hurdles, you're probably wondering, how does anyone actually win at this?
What's the secret sauce? How do you go from just getting by to actually thriving and making more money from every single shipment?
Well, it all starts with understanding this. What you're looking at here is a commodity. It's a raw material. Its price goes up, its price goes down, and you're basically competing against 1,000 other people selling the exact same thing. That is a really tough game to win.
The whole goal is to turn that commodity into this, a product. The moment you clean it, process it, package it, you're adding value. You're not just selling an ingredient anymore. You're selling a solution. You're selling convenience. That is what people pay a premium for. And that is what brings them back again and again.
So here's the playbook, the 3 key moves. First, process and upgrade. Don't just sell raw turmeric. Sell a branded, ready-to-use spice mix. Second, get into private labeling. Big supermarkets want amazing products they can slap their own brand on. If you can be that reliable supplier, you become indispensable. And third, use sustainability as your superpower. Proving your products are ethically sourced isn't just a nice-to-have anymore, it's a real marketing weapon.
But you know, finding that right international partner is incredibly hard and full of risk. That's where these matchmaking services come in. They basically act as a trusted bridge. They check out the suppliers for the buyers, and they make sure the exporters know exactly what those buyers need down to the last detail before a deal is ever signed. By doing that, they just slash the risk for everybody involved and prevent those little disputes that can kill a business relationship before it even starts.
In this whole story, it really leads us to one final big question. We always assume that to be a successful exporter, you have to start with an amazing product. But after seeing everything that's involved, you have to wonder, is the real key to winning in global trade found not in the field, but in the spreadsheets, the shipping documents, and those compliance checklists? It's something to think about.